It's Sunday, so you know what that means. A while back on the old Breakfast Club channel, the one that Dev Shell ran, um, we had a number of run-ins with our audience, and one of them had to do with was an LGBT issue, and we took issue with people in the audience took issue with what we were saying because most of the people on the panel agreed, and the audience didn't, or at least parts of the audience didn't, and so we had a back and forth, and in that exchange, somebody had said to me, they told me that because I disagreed with them, that I could not be an ally of the LGBT community, and I found that kind of ridiculous at the time, because clearly that's one person's opinion. But I thought more about it recently, and I thought, you know what? They had a point. I still think that person was wrong about that particular issue, but I was just thinking more about, in general, about the idea of allies. And because I've run into a few situations of late, both for myself and some friends, and on either side of that coin, whether they were trying supposedly an ally of some group that is seeking redress, or they were part of one of those groups and dealing with someone who was calling themselves an ally. And it came really to the conclusion that I think the way most people nowadays use the term ally, well, at least when it comes to the various social justice movements, I think people use it wrong. And so thinking about it, I think in a way that person might have been right, not for the reason they think, but here's the thing. Think about what the term ally means. Because ally is not just cooperation. It has to do with, it goes a step deeper. There's various words that we have that mean that you're cooperating with somebody. The most distant would be co-belligerent. So this is basically where you have a common enemy or some common cause, and you're both going out. I guess the modern term people say now is frenemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So in those cases, you don't have a serious commitment to the other person or the other group. It's simply that you have a common purpose for now, or at least in a certain context. That whenever we all hate Charlie, I hate Charlie, you hate Charlie. So when Charlie comes up in conversation, or if there's an issue with Charlie, we're gonna watch each other because we both want to get that motherfucker. But the reality is, that's not what people are saying most of the time when they're. I mean, ally. That's certainly not what ally means. And a step closer would be if you have a coalition, and a coalition is whereas because frenemies really could be enemies themselves, but they might decide to put that aside for the time being because they have a bigger threat. Coalition is basically a collection of willing partners with a common goal. So if you think about the Gulf War, both Gulf Wars, 91 and 2004, 3, 4, you had a collection of nations that weren't necessarily allies with one another, but they had a common purpose, and so they decided to cooperate together for some period of time. But it was more though than co-belligerent, because again, there was definitely a deeper level of cooperation and a hope, at least, that might persist after the mission was over. But you think about alliances, whether you think about some political alliances, NATO is a good example. The old Warsaw Pact was one. And there's trade organizations that you could see as alliances. And, an alliance is really, it's a mutual agreement between people that have more than just a casual relationship. This is, you are friendly, and you have a very close relationship, and it basically says, hey, I'm going to look out for you, and you're going to look out for me. It's more than just a target against a specific enemy or a specific cause. It says, hey, we are defending something, or we're trying to achieve something together, and not just one thing, but many things together, and our purposes and our means are close enough in line, and our values are close enough in line, and we're friendly enough, we like each other enough that we're gonna be this is a long-term committed partnership. Now, the thing is, and with alliances, now alliances may not be made up always of equals. Clearly, if you look at NATO, there's some nations that are more prominent. Obviously, the United States, Germany, France, on and off at various times. I would kind of consider France more of a coalition partner in NATO. The United Kingdom, some of the bigger ones, and then more recent days, Poland is kind of growing in there, but it's still kind of more further out. It's a lesser member at the moment. Turkey, Greece, and so forth. The Belgium, and so the thing is that, like I said, it's if something happens to me and you're my ally, under most circumstances, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention Canada. Please, definitely Canada, a major ally, and Australia is not in NATO, but I would definitely count them as a major ally of the United States, even if a lot of Australians wish that wasn't the case. So the thing is, when it comes to the social justice arena, when people are referring to themselves as an ally, I mean, there are some people that I can see are definitely true allies of whatever group they're trying to work with. But there's a lot of people who kind of grab this moniker, and two things would happen. They try to use it as a shield. Like, well, you can't criticize me. I'm an ally. You have to accept what I'm saying because I'm your ally. And certainly, allies, they can disagree. And one would hope, actually, an ally would tell you if you're doing something wrong, or if they think you're doing something wrong, might bring it up. But there's definitely, sometimes there can be a thing where sometimes people that are supposedly allies try to co-opt the movement and kind of take it over for themselves. They don't always do this intentionally, but it just seems to be something that they do. And on the flip side, there are people who, they basically think, and I've seen it actually voiced explicitly, think that an ally is to be a bulwark, and that's their only job, is you're there to be cannon fodder to protect me. And that's not a mutual relationship. That, again, an alliance doesn't have to be an equal partnership necessarily, but there definitely needs to be some sort of mutual benefit and mutual agreement as to where the boundaries are. And so, while no one's under an obligation to remain an ally or to accept somebody as an ally, if you do, certainly one would expect that you treat your allies with some level of decency and respect. So, I can see this from either side of the coin. People who claim the label who probably shouldn't, and people who foist the label on others and expect certain behavior. And that's not really how it should be. So I kind of think that, for myself, I made a video on about a year and a half ago, and I called myself an army of none, and I basically came to the conclusion, I'm not anybody's ally per se. I'm a supporter of various things. Because if you think about it, you can't really declare yourself an ally. You can declare yourself willing to ally with somebody, but if the other person or the other group doesn't accept that, then you're not their ally. As simple as that. So, like I said, that person who said that, I wasn't their ally, well, certainly, at least for themselves, they can't speak for the whole community, but for themselves, they absolutely can make that determination. I mean, I can't tell you you're my ally and then you have to accept it. It doesn't work that way. That's not what an alliance is. So I prefer to say that I support certain causes, certain groups, at least in the abstract. And again, being a supporter, that means I can support a cause, and I can see various groups that are working toward that end, at least theoretically, and I can say, well, I agree with this group and I disagree with that group, and I'll help the ones that I agree with and kind of not help the ones that I disagree with, or kind of hold back, maybe not give them as much direct assistance as the ones that I agree with, and I have that right to do that. So something to think about when because people toss this term around, and I think if you're going to try to claim the status of ally, then be the best ally you can. And if you want somebody to be your ally, then respect the people who you would have as your allies. It's got to be mutual, and for that matter, particularly when we're talking about marginalized communities, and if you're in one marginalized community but you care about another, I think it's reasonable that these multiple communities should be helping each other, and that's one of the problems. I think the reason why we're not better off than we are, because we get into the victim Olympics, and I'll talk about more of that in another video. But fighting, when it comes right down to it, we break down into, well, I'm worse off than you, or this is my thing, and we don't really cooperate. But I think if all the various groups were truly allies of one another, we get a lot more done, and we have a lot more progress, and we'd be able to protect the rights, especially right now where things aren't looking so hot with Mr. Trump and the Republicans. So I think we would be more successful at stopping them if we truly allied to one another and respected in all directions. People respect your allies and expect respect back from them as well. And if we do that, we can accomplish a lot. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. Tell me how many ways I'm wrong in the bar, because I'm sure everybody will. Thank you.